1st. It is 6:07 a.m. in the morning. And guys, I'm going full old school with you. I just opened my eyes not more than a few minutes ago. Just had a brief but interesting, every experience that I think I have is very interesting. So let me get right into this beyond body / reality shift experience that I just had. So, as many of you know, I don't always use my preferred thing is storm sounds. Of course, I will listen to storm sounds, and that is very relaxing to me. But in the morning, many times I will listen to NPR, and again, it happened again. I had NPR turned down really light in the backdrop. Now, I knew that I could possibly have an experience, and that was why I had it turned down so low. And so I was laying there and I was doing that thing in my mind because I actually did. I wanted to have an experience. So in my mind, I was thinking or picturing my hands pushing against space. Now, this is something I talked about before, a technique that I used, a suggestion that I gave out to you guys. This is something that I use now a lot, where I'm just picturing this image of me pushing against space itself. And at some point, it doesn't usually happen quickly, like immediately. It usually takes some time to happen. But in this situation, gosh, what time was it when I actually first started? It was probably about 5:30 in the morning, I think, or maybe slightly above that, like 5:20. And I believe that this started, I went into my in-between place in about 15, maybe 20 minutes later. And I could feel myself starting to go up into the air and start to turn. And suddenly I was weightless. Now, I want to make sure that I convey to you that this, again, is not astral projection. And the reason why is because for me, there is no sense of separation for me. There is no sense of separation. I feel as if my entire body is coming off the bed and then floating and doing what I can only say or consider to be a somersault, a turn in the air. And the best way I can describe this to you, the best way I can hopefully get you to visualize or feel it, is to picture yourself as an astronaut being weightless. Now, this is the way I've been traveling lately. It's been very interesting. For those of you who have been following my beyond body / reality shifting experiences, you will know that, especially in the beginning, I was going in one direction and another direction. I was turning this way, turning that way. That still does happen. I still have situations where I travel in that way. But in this particular way, this floating up from my bed, this has been something that has started happening recently. And what I'm beginning to feel or believe with all this is that there are different forms of being able to travel in this way through the beyond body. There are different ways to do it. I can move one way directionally to another way, up, down, whatever. I can come into, go from being in darkness to a scene revealing itself to me, and then touching a part of that scene and becoming a part of it in that moment, becoming a part of that reality. And now this way I am able to float up, and then I go into this, again, it feels as if I'm in the void, that place that I've spoken about before, where I'm turning and I'm weightless and there is no gravity. I'm just there. But this time, instead of just continuing to turn, I turned once. I did one cycle, and then suddenly I came down. And when I came down, I was in this, at first, what I thought was it had to be like a house or something. It may have been an apartment. It was big. There was a lot of space. And the first thing I noticed were all the trinkets that were hanging from the wall. There were these like little plush animals and all these other things that were hanging from the wall I'm sorry, I shouldn't say wall. They were hanging from the ceiling, and they were hanging down, and they were high up enough where I had to actually jump to actually sort of touch them. One of the things that I do when I go into one of these realities is I want to first verify that things feel the way they feel in the 3D. That's one of the things that I like to do. So what I started doing was I started jumping up and kind of hitting these trinkets and making them swing. And then at times I was able to kind of get up and feel what they felt like. And I could feel that they were soft. There were many types. I can't give you specifics. There was one that I saw that looked very kind of real, like, strange. It had a certain look to it that made it almost seem like this was like a dragon, and it was red, and it was kind of in the distance, and it was again hanging from a string, but it seemed, oh gosh, it could have been alive. I'm not 100% sure, and I didn't feel that particular one. I almost thought it was like staring at me or something. It was very strange. So I'm going through, I'm looking at all these trinkets, I'm feeling things. A lot of these things, like I said, are soft, like a plush toy would feel, and I was squeezing them. And then at some point, I started looking to see if there was a way out. I went into a room, and in the room, there was this huge white bed. I'm thinking white because the sheets were white. It looked extremely comfortable, guys. It looked very cushiony, this bed, king size or above. There was no one in it. It seemed to me that I was alone in this place, wherever I was, wherever I had just ended up. So I looked out a window, and I didn't see a way to see outside. Then I saw a door. And one of the things that I will also do at times when I see stuff as I'm going along, I will experiment. One of the things that many of you know is that flight is not always possible in every reality that I go to. There are times when flight is possible, where you can actually defy gravity and jump up into the air and fly. In this particular place, I wasn't sure yet because I was still inside. But the other thing that I will attempt at times, and I have attempted this before, is telekinesis, the ability to move objects with the power of your mind. I've had that ability at least once that I can remember in one of these places. So I was actually I saw a door, and I looked at the door, and I'm like, I wonder if I can move it with the power of my mind. So I tried, and it didn't move. I was like, oh, there's no telekinesis here. So telekinesis did not exist in this place. So I started pushing my way through the door, and I found it difficult at first. It was so funny. It was as if when I was pushing my way through the door, it was smaller than I suspected it was, and I was trying to squeeze through a smaller space than I thought. So this door, it seemed tiny, and perhaps I was just bigger than what I thought I was. But finally, after a bit of struggle, I was able to get out the door. And once I did, the first thing I remember, guys, the first thing was the cool air that hit me. Now, I noted that because I don't always feel temperature. There was one other experience in the Beyond Body that I had where I walked out and I felt a warm air hit me immediately, and it felt like a very tropical environment because I've been to some places like that. Things that come to my mind. Thailand is one thing that pops in my mind very quickly. I've been to Thailand before, so I know that sense of humidity and warmth that comes in when you come out of an airport, when you come out of the airport over there. And this is what I felt when I walked out of the door in this place, except for it wasn't warmth, it was cool air that hit me. And the other thing that I noticed was that it was quite cloudy. It couldn't have been more, I suspected. If I'm just theorizing here on temperature, because I didn't see any readings that specifically told me what the temperature was, but if I were to theorize, I would think it was probably in the 50s or below in this particular place. So it was cold. I mean, we're in June right now, and in California we're in summer. So at least on this side of the equator, I know there may be those of you listening on the other side of the equator where it's now considered to be winter, but it's summer here in the U.S. and specifically where I am in California. So the cool air hitting me, the clouds, it seemed almost wintry to me. There was a certain harshness to it, if I can say that. It was very strange. It did seem like winter in this place, but I didn't see snow. As I stepped out, I noticed I was on the roof of a building. So then I guess I suspected maybe this could have been an apartment that I was in and not a house. But when I looked out from this roof and I could see below, there were houses, and these houses, I have to tell you, they were small, like almost like shacks in a way. They were tiny. I don't know if you've seen, sometimes on YouTube you'll see I think they call these tiny homes or whatever, that they've built these tiny homes that are like real homes, but they're really small. And that's what this reminded me of. But these houses were more like shacks. They were, I believe there was one that I remember seeing that seemed to be boarded up. The windows were boarded up, but then there were others. And the sense that I got was that this place, wherever I was, this reality, and whatever the city, and I shouldn't judge, I don't want to judge the reality from seeing just this little section that I saw, because all I'm seeing is a slice of what this reality is. Perhaps I'm in a city. Perhaps I'm in a parallel city to where I am even in this moment. So I'm looking at it from that perspective, and from one area, one slice of something, you can't know how everything is. But from what from what I saw from this area, it was quite poor. That's what it seemed to me to be. And there were boys that were walking in this area near these houses on the street. And at least for one of these boys, I noticed that this boy, he had maybe brownish, perhaps dark hair, mustache. Now, I could see this from a distance. This is what I got. I think maybe longish hair, and he might have been Asian, but I'm not 100% sure. Not from this distance. And from Asian, Asia could mean India, Asia could mean China, Asia could mean all kinds of different, there are different countries within Asia. I would say perhaps Japanese, or maybe, I don't know, maybe Southeast Asian. Maybe Thai. I'm not 100% sure, guys. Maybe Cambodian. I'm not sure. But this person was the one that I saw that I thought, okay, I can kind of picture him. The rest, I'm not 100% sure. And once they disappeared, I thought, well, maybe I can try flying. But as soon as I started thinking about trying to fly, that's when I got brought back here to the 3D world. By the way, the other thing that I want to mention before I end this experience, because that's where this ended, was that when I first got there, I felt like I was gonna get pulled back, and that was this. This is the one tip that I want to give. I always try and give tips when I'm giving or when I'm sharing an experience with you. One of the tips that I've talked about, and I will say this, talk about this tip again. It's so important, guys. This is something that I did and I do in the field. When I feel myself starting to get pulled back, I take deep breaths. Deep breaths. And when I do that, it stabilizes me. So if you find yourself out there and you find yourself getting pulled back, deep breaths, it can help. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. And until next time, take care.